Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about absolute value equations. So if we think back to any time we've dealt with absolute value, dealing with absolute value, we've always been told that absolute value can never be negative. Absolute values can only be positive. So we need to remember this as we go through and solve absolute value equations. Alright, so let's talk about the steps. So our first step is to isolate the absolute value group using inverse properties. So we have to get the part that's inside the absolute value by itself. Everything else around it needs to go away. Then, if it's equal to a positive number, so if the number to the right is a positive number, then we are going to split the absolute value into two equations. One is going to be equal to the positive value and one will be equal to the negative value. If it's equal to a negative, then there are no solutions. All right, so I know that this all sounds kind of confusing, so we'll actually see what happens when we get down below. Our third step then, if we got to do the split, would then be to solve both equations. All right, so let's start with this one here. Here we have our absolute value group. We need to isolate that. So in order to do that, I need to get rid of this -7. This says -7 times. So I'm going to divide both sides by -7. That's going to cancel those out. And when I do that, I end up with the absolute value of x minus 14 equals -5. All right, remember what we said up top though. Absolute values can only be positive. This is telling me that the absolute value of whatever x is minus 14 equals -5. That's not possible. Absolute values can never be negative. All right, so what does this mean? It means we have no solution. We can't do anything more with this problem. As soon as it equals a negative number, we stop there. And then we put set builder notation. Remember, it's just our empty set. All right, I want you to go ahead and try this one on your own. Go ahead and pause the computer now. Okay, let's go to the next page. And let's try this problem here. So we're going to solve the following equation. So we need to isolate this group here. So to do that, first I'm going to add 8 to both sides. That is going to eliminate those. And once I do that, I am now left with this. All right, now we need to isolate just the absolute value group. To do that, we have to get rid of this 2. So instead of multiplying by 2, we're going to divide both sides by 2. That means that these will cancel out. And we are now left with the absolute value of -2x plus 3 equals 18. All right, so here we see that our absolute value is positive. Okay, that's possible. So now we can split. So I can take this equation and I can drop the absolute value bars and just rewrite it without the absolute value bars. Equals 18, just like that one. Then I can rewrite it over here, but this time I'm going to make it equal -18. All right, so when we go to split, we write the first time exactly as it was, just remove the absolute values. The second time, we write the beginning part exactly the same, drop the absolute value, but then change this number to the negative version. All right, so now let's go ahead and solve. So now, to solve for x, I first need to isolate this term. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. That leaves me with -2x equals 15. Then I can divide both sides by -2. And that leaves us with x equals -15 over 2. Remember in algebra, we keep our answers as fractions. We don't turn them to decimals. Now I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. So now I need to isolate this group. Again, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. This time, though, I end up with -21 on this side because we started with -18. Divide both sides by -2. And now we're left with x equals 21 over 2. Okay? Now I want you to come over here and try this one on your own. Be careful, I do want you to change this subtraction sign to an addition sign. There was a little typo in there, so we want to make sure that this works out right. Make sure that that one is a plus sign. All right, and then this is it for our notes. So you can go ahead and stop the video now.